Hi there, welcome to the BAMREF Show. As usual, Ajibola, the BAMREF CEO, is with me here in the studio, and this week's guest is Nayim Ahmed. He's a sporting director at NLS Club Sporting Bengal. Nayim's also a football development officer at the London FA, and among his many jobs and his double T, he is a level 5 official on the BAMREF Show this week. Haaland, Ajibola, and the goal that wasn't. Craig Pawson was the match referee for Liverpool's defeat to Manchester City. Why did he not just award that goal? Mark Gahey on Mohamed Salah, was that really the denial of a goal-scoring opportunity? And Christian Romero on Casemiro, when is a red card not a red card? We'll also be talking to Nayim about his rise as one of the most high-profile South Asians in London football. I will ask him how he intends to open up the pathway for more young people from his demographic to make it into refereeing. But let's talk about that Haaland goal. Ajibola goal, that wasn't, because it's being described as po-faced VAR bureaucracy. It's here on the screen. The guys are here with me. Guys, why was this not a goal? Let's start with you, Aji.
I think firstly, we can all accept that the laws of the game was applied in this instance. And albeit there might be debate about what outcome people would have preferred, the laws of the game was applied. I think the argument around this scenario has often been around common sense. And common sense is only common if everyone's got the same level of sense, and we know that's not the case in terms of the world as it is. But if we play it back, and the ball didn't end up in the net, Darren, and I think that's fair to say, and hence why there is a debate. But if you do play back in reverse order, the ball ended up in the net, but before that, Szoboszlai was in front of Haaland, and Haaland pulled him back. And had he not pulled him back, in that instance, there was an argument that Szoboszlai would have got to the ball because he was close enough to clear that ball off the line. So Liverpool could have argued that, well, he might have saved it. And then you go further back in the instance. Well, Haaland would argue that I would have actually scored the goal had you not pulled me back, and that's why you got in front of me.
Right, so let's bring you in, because you've been nodding throughout that. What do you think, mate?
Completely agree on the point where, as you're saying, the laws of the game were followed. Yes, the laws were followed. But you look at this and you go, the referees obviously delayed. I've watched it in real time. I've seen the pull from Szoboszlai and Haaland, and I'm going, if this ball doesn't roll over, something's going to be called there. But the referees obviously, and rightfully, delayed it until the ball's gone over the line. And at that point, you go in, a goal's being scored. Now, if I'm refereeing Hackney Marshes or in a big stadium, if I'm denying a goal from happening, I'm going, I've got to really justify this decision. And I'm going, once the ball's rolled over that line, why am I bringing it back? Why am I giving myself a decision to make?
Now, if you're on Hackney Marshes, surely at some point, so that everybody knows you've seen the pull, you don't deem it to be decisive, you make a advantage.
But you don't play an advantage on a red card.
But had he played the advantage before the goal was scored, then surely he could have allowed the goal to be scored and then come back and given him a yellow card.
And no offence happened after he played the advantage, then he could have done that. But there was another offence after the advantage. Haaland pulling Szoboszlai back. Now, there is a principle, you don't play advantage on a red card anyway, in that instance, unless you're absolutely certain a goal is going to be scored. If Haaland hadn't pulled back Szoboszlai, we're no longer certain a goal is going to be scored. So I think, however you look at it, and I appreciate the ultimate feeling around wanting it, but there is also about the integrity of the game concern here. And ultimately,
let's bring this in because you're right to say that, but a lot of people are asking this question. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. How can you send someone off for the denial of a goal scoring opportunity when they didn't end up denying the goal?
Well, you would argue, again, it's exactly what we've been talking about. You would argue that had Haaland not pulled Szoboszlai back, he may have denied the goal. So you have to look at each incident. And this is the whole point around VAR. I think, Nayim mentioned, on a Hackney Marshes, a normal referee in real time, would have blown up as soon as Haaland's put him back and given a red card and given a free kick. Possibly would have done that in that instance because he's not going to anticipate what's going to happen next, so to speak. Now, the laws of the game are what they are, and despite the science, I think the match officials on the day have done their job. And the whole benefit of having VAR is to wait and see to get to the right, correct outcome. And the team had the time to wait and see and debate the nuances of that series. Albeit it was a great watch for everyone, they debated it, and I think the right outcome was reached for football.
I think you can use that same sentence to say integrity of the game, love of the game. The goal was the problem that people have with VAR is the re-refereeing of the game. Now you're going, just let that naturally flow, let it happen, and let the referee make his decision. He's probably going to delay making any decision, see the goal, done. Everyone kind of leaves that after the full-time whistle, leaves the game thinking it is what it is. Now for VAR to get involved and to re-referee the decision, and I do believe that it was a re-refereeing of the decision, I think that's where the problem is.
Well, there is a converse though, isn't there, Darren? I mean, let's be fair. If we played out the other scenario, there will be people this morning shouting, well, why didn't they send him off? Because we all know Szoboszlai is probably Liverpool's best player. And we're talking about integrity of the game. If the referees have applied the law as they've done the other night, the right outcome was reached, red card. But had he been sent off, had he been sent off or not been sent off, what about the games he's now going to play? 3 game suspension, which is the right thing in law, he's going to get to play. Maybe he even scores goals in those games.
Yeah, but here's my issue with that. Because, and there is a widespread acceptance that the laws have been followed. But who wins? Because City have a goal chalked off, Liverpool lose a player. So there isn't really a winner in that scenario. City don't benefit from the laws, if you like, being correctly applied. Had the goal been scored, City would have, obviously they'd won anyway, but Liverpool fans would have basically said, well, it is what it is. I don't think they would have been howling for anybody to be sent off. I don't think City fans would have cared, about that foul. It's only because they'd won anyway. So they weren't really making too much.
With the greatest respect, Darren, the debate about the law is not for referees. The referees are there to apply the law.
No,
if we want to have a debate about what the law is, then that's for the governing bodies in FIFA and IFAB to look at that. The referees on the day have done the job expertly, as per the laws of the game. And whilst I appreciate the frustrations of fans, the referees have done their job.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I agree, but I think, in some situations making life more difficult for referees because essentially you're now putting yourself in a situation where you've seen VAR get involved, actively re-referee a decision that probably wouldn't have been made if VAR wasn't there. And
I have to say, I like it. Right? Now, here's the thing, right? Because you're speaking my language, right? I have a big problem with VAR and re-refereeing the game. Because sometimes when you do hear the audio, you and I have argued about this many times, and I know you're very defensive of the VAR process, and I understand that, right? But I think from a layman point of view, if you like, there are lots of people who hear the audio and they say, the referee clearly decided he hadn't seen anything worth penalising.
Yeah.
The VAR gets involved sometimes over something that is so minute that it takes 8 or 10 replays before a referee can make a decision. That surely, for the people who are listening to the people who are watching, must be frustrating.
Oh, well, look, we can debate other incidents, but we're talking about this specific incident in its own guise. And I actually disagree that the referees or VAR referee this game. VAR was brought in for exactly this reason, clear and obvious error. Now, the referee on the day, on few decisions, would award the goal. But in law, he was wrong. So that is a clear and obvious error. They've asked him to go and have a look at it and say, this is the reason why we think you've applied. I appreciate what you're doing, Craig, why you've awarded the goal. Fouls cancel each other. But in law, you're wrong.
I know we can't move on, but just for that phrase, clear and obvious. I mean, there are football fans all across the land in the Premier League, because obviously the Premier League is the only league where we use VAR, who say that they have had decisions go against them that were neither clear or obvious. What do you say to that?
Well, as I said, you'll have to have a look at each case on its own merit. There are also a lot of fans who necessarily don't get into the intricacies and complexity of the laws of the game. And those in the VAR booth, I'd like to think, actually do get into that. And sometimes when they do intervene, to the obvious eyes, it's why is he getting involved? But to those that are anoraks of the game, that study the law, understand why they are getting involved. Not to say they always get it right. We've had debates here, and I've said I probably would have done something different. That's human nature. But in this instance, I think we can all be confident in saying that those colleagues on the night, as difficult as it might be, did their job.
You're not that, You're very expert at this kind of thing, very good at it. Well, what do you both say to the idea that if a replay, if you need 3 or more replays, then you should let the original decision stand?
For context, I'm massively pro VAR. I think it's a good thing that it's been brought into the game. I don't think it should be judged on how many times you've needed to watch it. I think it should be, what did the referee see and did the referee miss that? And I think that's the conversation.
Let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
You say you don't think it should be judged on how many times you replay it, but if you need to replay something 5 times, then you're not sure, are you?
I think in between the lines there, you've got a situation where one referee would make a decision one way, another referee would make a decision another way, and you've essentially, if you're needing to watch it back a couple of times, and the assistant in your ear is telling you, "No, I think you need to see this again. I think you need to see it from this angle." There's just 2 different opinions here. VAR will never provide consistency. I don't believe that it's there to provide consistency, but I do think you've got a culture here, and I think. Look, I'm a level 5 match official, and I'm saying you always get that ref coach or that ref observer that will tell you, "Well, I would have done it that way." But respectfully, that was my decision to make, and I've made that decision. Similarly, I think you've got a similar situation with VAR, where a video assistant referee is saying, "But I would have made a decision differently." You need to empower the match official on the day to say, "I think you missed something, have a look at it, but you're more than welcome to disagree with me here." That's the reason why we've got, when they go to the screen, 99% of the time, they're turning it over.
Can't you get him to the VAR?
Well, he's absolutely right. VAR is technology. It's a screen, people are looking at the technology. You might look at the same technology once, Darren, and be okay with what you've seen. Some other colleagues might need the assurances of looking at it 6, 7 times. That's human nature. So it's not VAR, it's ultimately the individuals that are operating the VAR, and if they need that assurances to make sure they get to the right outcome, that's what we're facing. That's where we are in the game.
All right, let's take a look at this, because they had to look at this quite a few times before they decided that this was not the denial of a goal-scoring opportunity. This is Mohamed Salah here, being pulled back by Mark Gahey there. Now here is, for proper context, the full frame: goalkeeper, Salah and Gahey. Now here's my issue with that. It was decided that this was not the denial of a goal scoring opportunity. But for a player the calibre of Mohamed Salah, surely that cannot possibly be the case. If you look at his positioning here, Salah has scored goals by going past 3 or 4 players in front of him. So do you not need to know your player in a scenario like this?
Not as a match official, no. My opinion is that the right decision was made. I've seen it in real time, and I've said, okay, I've seen the pull, and I'm going, if it's in the box, that's penalty, and VAR's getting involved. It's outside the box, I'm not even contemplating doctor. The reason why I'm doing that is because I think there's too many factors here where you're going, well, what if that happens?
Okay, take me through them.
So the first one, you're going, Salah's going to get control of the ball. Is Rodri coming out and covering?
Rodri is here.
Is that Rodri? So is a defender coming across and making an interception, making a tackle? Maybe. Is Salah good enough to probably get around that? Yes. But are you taking that into consideration? In my opinion, no. Is the keeper coming out? Yes. Is the angle correct? I think there's too many ifs, buts and maybes for you to go, that is a clear goal scoring opportunity. And I think it's relevant to the use of VAR, where Dogsall has become more, that's Dogsall, that's last man. And you're seeing it on the grassroots fields, you're seeing it on the AstroTurfs, where they're going, he's last man. And the types of decisions that you would have made, where you would have said, that's not Dogsole 5 years ago, you're going, everything's Dogsole. Everything can be debated for Dogsole now because of VAR. Because VAR will say, well, the keeper was there and everything else, and because of all the camera angles. I'm going, did he stop a clear goal-scoring opportunity? Is Salah 99% sure likely to get in? And there's no way that you can say Salah is 99% likely to score.
And there are actually, Nayim is spot on, there are actually definitions in law of what is a denial of goal-scoring opportunity. So the first thing you've got to consider is likelihood to gain control of the ball. Where Salah is, the team have made a decision, it's definitely outside the box in that scenario. So if a foul was committed, which was, it would have been a red card rather than a penalty and a yellow card. So likelihood to gain the control of the ball is the first thing. Position on the field of play, being central as opposed to being on the side is another consideration. Then you've got direction of travel of the ball. So is the ball heading towards goal or not? And you can argue that Salah's going to get control, he might push it towards goal. Then you've got the nuance of covering defenders. Now, there is at least one covering defender in that scenario. So you're now in a position where you're thinking, well, there's 4 or 5 boxes that a referee needs to tick, 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 tick before he can say this is a denial of goal scoring.
All right, I'm going to push back at that because I'm looking here. Salah is in advance of Gahey here. If he runs and continues the trajectory of his run...
Darren...
Well, he's about to. Look, if you look at this, he is running in a diagonal towards goal.
Yeah.
Right, this is one of the most prolific goal scorers in the world. I'm looking at this and I'm not as convinced as you two are that A, he doesn't get his shot away, and B, he doesn't score. Now, you can say if, right? But the whole premise of Dogsole is if.
Yeah.
Do I think he could score? If that foul is committed, does he have the opportunity to score? So, yes, I take your point on hyperbole, but it does work both ways. And I just don't subscribe to the idea that one of the most prolific goal scorers in world football doesn't have an obvious goal scoring opportunity based on this frame right here.
Yeah, and you could make an argument, and it's a valid argument you make. It's always going to be the case of can you put your mortgage on it? Because we've seen players miscontrol, maybe push it too far on because of the distance. His next action...
Ballon d'Or contender. I mean, this guy is a golden boot winner of how many seasons?
Let me ask that question in another way. Are we confident that Salah's next action is to shoot on goal, or is it likely to take a touch?
If you look at this image, even if he takes a touch, right, he's in advance of Gahey.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you look at the positioning of him and his proximity to goal, he's at an angle. How many goals has he scored from this angle?
What consideration do you have for... Is it Rodri, did you say was there? Rodri.
Well, Rodri would have to be an Olympic sprinter to get from there to stop him over here.
Yeah.
So he is getting his shot away here.
Yes.
I take... Listen, you guys... I'm
not suggesting, by the way, that our position is cast iron correct, because... It's all about watching it live on the day and seeing the picture. And what referees do is they take that picture straight away as if they've seen the point of contact, the speed the players are going out, and then you've got to tick all those boxes. What I'm saying, these are the boxes that match officials have to tick in those scenarios. Now, the benefit of VAR, I guess in this instance, on a match day, at the level that Nayim operates or I operate, if a referee goes red card and I'm watching it live, I'd be very well supported in that instance. But it's a difficult sell as opposed to if Salah was maybe 5 or 6 yards in and it was a different picture, it's an easier sell. So it's the nuances of football.
The context of all the decisions that have been made previously around Dogsole is, I think, the reason why we're even having this debate. I do believe that there needs to be a higher threshold for Dogsole. Now, if the situation is completely different, Salah's in on goal, he's about to release it and it's about to cross the line, and he's gone and pulled him where he can't get his shot off. Clear goal scoring opportunity. Here you've got so many things that you're needing to consider. If you're needing to debate it that many times, then it's not a conversation for Dogsole. And that is my point here. And I think the use of cameras, the use of technology has lowered the threshold for what Dogsole actually is. And I think that's the deep-rooted problem here.
And there's a bigger consequence as well. Red card game changing. You've got to be 100% certain that you're absolutely right in what you're applying in terms of law.
All right, well...
It goes on this morning, doesn't it?
Now then, Romero in yellow here, Tottenham Hotspur defender, on Casemiro, the Manchester United decorated midfielder. Now, the amount of trophies he's won makes no difference here. What does make a difference, you can see it here.
Yeah.
The right boot of Romero on the left ankle of Casemiro. Are we agreed that this is a red card?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's an act of serious foul play.
Yeah. You see his body position, the way his weight's going down into his leg is excessive. He's endangered opponent. There's not really much to argue, in my opinion, here.
It's not case for the defence. Do you see the other thing? In that very quick scenario is it looks potentially, and I know on a freeze frame he always looks worse. When you look at that as a challenge in itself, you could almost argue that's an ankle breaker. Straight leg on the ankle, looks painful. I don't think there is any mitigating argument that could be made for Romero in any way whatsoever.
I say I'm always really fascinated by when players they pull off a tackle like this and they go to the referee and say,
Yeah, it's a challenge.
"What did I do? It's insane."
Every Saturday,
Insane.
Darren.
Yeah, I can imagine. Have you got any examples of when players have done that with you guys, where they've done really bad fouls?
Players do even as simple as a throw-in. They've kicked the ball out and they're saying it's mine, mate. And you think, right, okay. So I think it's just a normal reaction when they've been caught. They always appeal for things. So nothing that players do surprises me anymore.
The context of being a club official is really interesting because as a club official, when I'm in watching my club, I'm going, I will do every single emotion and gesture to win that referee's decision. If he's got a slight bit of doubt, I am going to do something that shifts momentum.
How do you know he's got a slight bit of doubt?
Well, you might not have the doubt in that decision, but the next one, he might second guess himself because they've really been on my back. And you might think, I've made 2-3 bad decisions. If I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt, let me give it their way. I'm honest.
So are you one of those that pushes referees in the tunnel half time?
Oh, definitely not.
We've
definitely
got nothing
not.
from your day today.
Very respectful, hospitality at the end. We're having tea and biscuits at full time. But when the game's going on, when there's a 50-50 decision and it could work in my favour, I have to.
Hence the reason
3
why
points
referees
is
don't
so
listen to
important.
anybody.
And rightfully so. And I use that context when I'm out on the field as well.
Okay. I want to ask you about this in relation to the free kick we just saw. Sorry, the red card we just saw, because that was justifiable. But this one did not result in a red card for Diogo Dalot here, whose boot is on the knee of Jeremy Doku. Now, listen, we're all agreed now that it should have been a red card. Why do you think this one wasn't given, but the other one was?
The only, and just to be clear, I think that's a red card as well. But the only argument I could make in support of that outcome is the position of the ball. And you could argue, as opposed to the Romero challenge, he's gone straight for the ankle, the ball was nowhere near where his challenge was. In the Darlow incident, the ball was actually there for a split second, and Doku was just too quick for him.
Yes.
It doesn't excuse the challenge because it's just not a great challenge. No. And it's an act of serious foul play, but at least there was a consideration around where the ball was, and actually also I think the terminology used was the challenge was grazing as opposed to full on.
Did somebody tell that to Doku's knee?
Well, I mean, I'm not defending that at all, but I think that's just another thought that goes into was he really trying to make a tackle, or was it just an act of serious foul play?
Nayim.
Like Ajay, think the decision was a wrong decision. Dalot should have been sent off here. I think probably considering what was the on-field decision? Was it given as on-field decision? And this isn't just for this call only. I think for all calls, what was the on-field decision? Now, what am I asking the referee? Am I asking the referee, what did you see? What did you not see? Okay, I'm just confirming that, and then is there evidence supporting the decision that you've made? And that's where you can go into, is it clear and obvious? Now, if the referee turns around and in com says, well, that's not what I saw, I didn't see him make any contact, I see him making a grazing contact with the knee, then you go, no, that's where you're wrong, and that's clear and obvious.
at the time. Were you shocked when it wasn't given?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was surprised, especially with VAR being in action. I think at a different level, championship football and below, you could argue the referees missed it, and that happens. You know, referees are human beings. We get, I think the last stats I saw, and forgive me for using stats, I think it's about a 95% key match decisions accuracy, and I think that's really,
not bad.
really good.
That's not bad.
Considering you make 60 decisions in a game.
Remember, you told me something.
Every minute.
I thought it was 320.
Over the course of a game, but when you look at it sort of minutes by minutes, sometimes referee could have to make about 60 decisions, you know, within minutes of game. So
what's your percentage rate?
I'm very good, Darren. I hardly ever get anything wrong until last Saturday. But look, we're human beings. We always learn, and we learn to improve and get things right.
We do.
That's the most important thing.
And someone who's been getting it right on a very regular basis is our guest, Nayim. You remind me of myself. You grew up in an area with one of the highest rates of youth deprivation in the UK. You grew up in Tower Hamlets in East London. Tell me about it.
Tower Hamlets, you can look at the stats and figures now, quite one of the highest rates of youth deprivation, and the byproduct of that is young, disengaged, disenfranchised individuals, high ethnic minority population, densely populated with first generation and second generation immigrants, and fundamentally just not many people willing to give those young people from those communities a chance, a second chance.
I know it well. I went to school in the area. I can see how much things have improved there. But how did you get from that? You're a single parent family. How did you get from that into a position where you could make a difference in football?
The bit that I said at the end, where somebody giving you a chance or a second chance is really important. I had single parent household. I needed somebody else there who's willing to take a chance on me and say, Nayim, I think you've got something in you and I think you can take this forward. And I had youth workers, etc., that would, and there's a couple of individuals.
Go on, name them.
Boris, there's a youth worker that I had, his name was Boris. He's the one that turned around and joined the London Tower Hamlets Youth Council. Time when I wasn't very confident, I'm still short, but I was probably 4'11", tiny, at 15 years old. Didn't really have too much confidence. Said, no, I think you can do something with this, and I think, I don't know what it is exactly, but keep working on it. And that was the drive and belief that gave me, or instilled in me, the belief that I can go on and do something.
How old were you at the time?
So at 16 years old, I set up with a good friend of mine. His name is Nayim Ahmed, Wapping Youth FC, Wapping Youth Football Club.
Set up the club.
Set up the club. So at 16 years old.
So just if I'm watching, the first thing I'm thinking is, how do you go about setting up a club? I can see how you go about setting up a team.
Yeah.
A club. Tell
So
me how
it
you
started off with just a team, and the main reason why we done it is because we played Tower Hamlets football, and when you play that, you play the same 8 teams again and again and again and again, all the way up until you're 16, and then potentially you play in the summer league or you play in adult football if you're good enough. What we wanted to do is for our younger brothers and for the next generation, we wanted to do something different. We wanted them to have opportunities to go and play outside of Tower Hamlets, go and play in Essex in the Echo League, and go and play in Hackney Marshes, play different teams, different abilities, have different opportunities, know that there's a different pathway out there. So we set up with a team of younger brothers, where our younger brothers were friends. We set up with that age group, and they went on and done incredible things, won the London County, and then, from that we grew. Oh, my mate wants to join, my mate wants to join. Then suddenly you've got 6 age groups, and 10 age groups, and 15 age groups, and now you've got a club within 5 years.
So who does all the organisation of all of that? How do you get to a place where you think, well, there are so many people who want to set teams up, I need to basically create a structure here? I mean, you are standing next to a man who set up BAMREF and has turned that into a monster, so you're kind of like-minded. But how did you do that?
One, there's no training. You're simply a grassroots volunteer. You go on YouTube, you ask other people, you find out from you know, people that might be 20, 25 years older who have got that experience of setting up a club. And there were people out there, there were role models out there that you could look up to, but you keep true to your purpose of you're trying to set up something different. So you ask the right questions, you get some guidance, get some advice. What do you need to do to become affiliated? At the time it was charter standard. What do you need to do to become charter standard? How do you have a good kind of process in place? Big part of my role, which we'll probably talk about separately, but there was no training for that. It's just pure dedication and commitment to going and having all of the right things in place.
Who gave you the best advice?
Oh no, I can't put that down to one person because there were so many people that were so influential in that. And I am going to say that Nayim was such a big driving force in making that happen because he was the one that had the confidence to go and ask the questions and bring the right people in. And I was the person, and I think that's where we worked well as a duo, where he was the person that would ask the right questions, I would be the one to make it happen. Okay, so this is my action, this is what I need to do, let's make it happen because I am trying to set up the best club in East London here.
Are there any parallels between that and the way you set BAMREF up?
Well, I think Nayim's story is an inspirational one. And it speaks really to the mentoring mindset of BAMREF. It talks about people that has helped him along the way, and that's what we're trying to create. But I think that the real key thing is no one teaches you. You know, you need that structure and that support. So yes, there are parallels.
So, Youth Council.
Yeah.
How did you set it up? Why did you set it up?
So the Youth Council was an established kind of FA program. Didn't really fit into any strategy when I joined. But the Youth Council used to run the FA Leadership Academy. So in 2020, I applied to be on the FA Leadership Academy.
How old were you at that time?
2020, I would have been 22.
Too much on.
I would have been 22. I would have been 22 at the time.
I mean, that is a huge responsibility for a 22-year-old to say, listen, I am going to take this step that is going to have this huge impact on my community, on my sporting community. It's leadership, it's organisation, it's so many things. I mean, your friends are probably doing lots of very different things. I don't want to say anything specific, but, you know, they're probably having fun, shall we say. Why that?
There's something you said there. It was lockdown. So 2020 was lockdown. Changed absolutely everything because, and you know, a lot of people went through lots of different adversities during lockdown. There was a lot of great things that came out of it. It gave me the time to reconnect with my purpose and who I wanted to be as a person, as an individual, as a leader, the type of impact I want to have on communities and people like me. It gave me the opportunity to remember in isolation, which was really important. So going back to that time in lockdown, it was an opportunity for me to do things myself, where before the confidence and the courage to do things would have come from being part of a group. We setting up Wapping Youth FC, there was a group of us, it was friends coming together to set up a club. Lockdown was different because you were doing things in isolation. So that's why, I'm saying it again, reconnecting to my purpose, it was an opportunity for me to do something that is transformative and meaningful. What I found is a platform where young people's ideas were championed, you were allowed to be expressive, open, honest, and that empowerment allowed courageous, creative new ideas.
You're a sporting director now.
Yeah.
What does a sporting director do?
Sporting so in the National League system, completely ambiguous. It could be setting up tea and coffee stations all the way up until the strategy. My main responsibility is, for those that don't know, Sporting Bengal United, a club very close to my heart, set up, been existing longer than I was born, and it was set up in the late 90s, early 90s, late 90s.
Where are they based?
Tower Hamlets.
Okay.
So if you go back to the context of that time, that era, you're talking about Asians who were not allowed to participate in sport, not because the law didn't allow them to, but because if they would go to an away game, it'd be very unlikely that they would come back home without being battered. And that wasn't just a football thing. Physically assaulted, battered, bruised. And that wasn't just a football thing, that was on the way to work. You know, my dad would tell me stories, my granddad would tell me stories of how they had to take the bus together on a Thursday evening after work in the factories. Why? because their pay packets would get stolen. They would be beaten up just because of the colour of their skin. Sporting Bengal United was established to give a safe space, a platform for Asian players to play somewhere where they could be free from discrimination. They set up an Asian league where they could play against each other, and the all-star team from that league was then taken and played in the National League system. Sporting Bengal United, through all of its success over the last 30 years, achieved Step 4, or got promoted up to Step 4 in 2023. 2024, and that's where I started to get involved with the club. The club's CEO and senior board members reached out to me and said, "Nayim, look, we're in it. Like this is a big deal for us. We've been in the game for the last 30 years. We need new ideas to come in and really kind of continue the momentum of the club, but also stabilise the club, because we've never needed to be in this situation financially where the turnover, the people that are watching who are involved in between Step 3 and Step 5 of the National League system will understand it's really expensive to run a club at that level. They need to stabilise the finances, they need to stabilise the people, the boardroom, the committee, the facilities. All of those things needed some solid foundations. And my context and my background allowed me to kind of support them, and that's how I got involved.
I must just ask you, when did it stop? When did you start feeling that you could go to football matches, involving yourself, your friends, your family, and feel you could come home without that fear of being physically assaulted?
I don't think it ever goes away, really. I think if you look at the context of the world and the climate at the moment, the political climate, it's a very scary place, and I don't think, the history teaches us that this goes in cycles. If it's not me, it'll be someone else, and if it's not someone else, it'll be someone else, until cycle round comes back to me. Those from underrepresented groups will always kind of face that fear, and I think that's important. It's dealing with the times that you're in at the moment. So to answer your question, I don't think it's ever going to be.
That said, you are an inspirational figure, and you do have big plans for how to open up pathways for young people into refereeing. Tell us what they are.
My thing, and I said the same thing when I came into Sporting Bengal on my first day, my thing is not to tell you my ideas. My ideas is to empower other people, because I strongly believe that the answers are hidden in the rooms that we are already in. But I don't know if we have enough leaders in the game at the moment who are willing to listen to other people and empower other people to hear their ideas. The answers are there. And, in refereeing, in coaching, for club, no matter what it is, my thing is supporting others, empowering others. Because I think me and Aji were speaking about this the other day. The referee workforce will always be a young workforce under the age of 25. It will always be a young workforce just because of the nature of the tasks and responsibilities. Young people have great ideas, and I think it's important that we don't just say, oh, well, a young referee is the next generation of referees, because he or she is not the next generation, he or she is the current generation of referees, which means their opinions, ideas and thoughts are relevant to the current generation. And that's why it's important to empower those individuals.
You've got this whole room waiting. Basically, you can hear a pin drop. Everyone's hanging on your every word, making so much sense. Aji, when you set up BAMREF, is this a kind of inspirational story that you had hoped to find, or does it unearthing, discovering somebody like Nayim, is that one of the many reasons why you did this in the first place?
Well, I mean, just to sort of put it out there, Darren, I think the first time I saw Nayim at work, he came to present to us councillors about the strategy for FA Youth Council. And he was out there in his sort of mid-20s. And he stood there in front of, we know what the constitution of FA Council looks like. And he stood there and he presented his vision. And I sat back in there and I thought, it's a good young man here. So we got conversing, we had a conversation, and I challenged him quite a few times, told him about the BAMREF project. And the desire I certainly have in terms of in this role is to engage youth voice in leadership, because we've had this debate and we very much agree that the youth is not about the future, it's about now.
Absolutely.
And it's about getting those role models from that demographic as well. So there is a lot of work within the BAMREF. What we're setting up, we're talking about setting up the BAMREF Youth Council and enabling those guys to help people like myself and others within BAMREF to make sure that when we are speaking in those rooms, we're not speaking just as the middle-aged black men with our scars and battle scars. And you know, Nayim talks about, interestingly, about his experiences even now when he goes to football. And it just reminded me that every fixture I get, even now in a professional game, part of my prep is to do a bit of research on the area.
It's crazy, isn't it?
To see if there's been any incident recently, and if I'm going to stay in a hotel, what does that look like? And that's, for me as a black man, you know, in his 40s, I still worry about things like that, even though we talk about it. So
in my 30s, I do that.
You wish. But no, it's a reality of the colour of our skins and the extra load that we have to carry.
It's that said,
just to do what we love.
there is a lot of positivity that you've left with us in the room here, and we want you to come back and share some more. Will you come back onto?
I would be honoured.
It's been an honour to have you on. Nayim
Double
Ahmed,
T
thank
in
you
the
very
make.
much. Double T. Any sugar?
One sugar. Always one sugar.
We'll get that sorted out for you. It's been a pleasure to have the guys on the show. Remember, info@bamref.com if you want to get in touch. We're also on social media as well, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. So get in touch with us. We do want to hear from you, particularly if you play at grassroots level. Also with your thoughts on the goals, the incidents, all of the talking points from any given week or match day. Get in touch with us and we'd be delighted to discuss your views on this show. It's been a pleasure to have your company. We'll see you next time on the BAMREF Show.